Okay, welcome back everybody to the deep dive.
It's gonna be a fun one.
This time, uh, we're going into a world that's a little bit different.
A little unconventional.
Yeah, a little unconventional. We're talking dating advice, I guess you could call it, but not the usual kind.
Yeah.
It's more like pickup artistry, maybe.
Yeah, edging into that pickup artistry.
We found 5 audio tracks
Hmm.
from an underground dating seminar,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest, even after listening to it, I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping you can help me understand.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, so our goal is to figure out, is this all just like smoke and mirrors? Is there any like actual good advice in here?
Are there any helpful nuggets in here?
Yeah, so let's just dive in and see what this is all about.
Sounds good.
So one of the things that surprised me right off the bat is this seminar leader, he starts by emphasizing personal growth, which you wouldn't expect from a pickup artist.
Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. Very interesting. He starts by really hitting on this idea of like personal growth. Like you have to build a strong identity, and that's the foundation for success with women, which is surprising. Like you said, coming from a pickup artist, you'd think it'd be a lot more tactical. You know.
Yeah, like tricks.
Tips and tricks, exactly. Yeah. And not so much like be a better person.
Yeah, and he actually argues that like the typical pickup artist, things, like flashing your money around or just relying on your looks
Yeah.
isn't going to lead to genuine connection.
Right.
He's saying you got to develop your personality.
Yeah, he's saying like develop your personality project, like a fun, social, relaxed vibe. It's almost like he's saying just be authentically, yourself,
Yeah.
which again, really surprising.
Yeah, and to drive that point home even more, he actually shares his own personal journey.
Yeah.
He wasn't always this like super suave, confident dating guru.
Right.
He describes himself as being painfully shy in high school.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder if he really had to put in the work if he wasn't just like naturally good at this.
Yeah, and he talks about how through study and practice, he was able to like completely transform his dating life, which is pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it really humanizes him, like he's not just this like, player who's been doing this forever, he had to actually like work at it and figure it out. So,
Makes you wonder, are these seminars really more about self-improvement than manipulation?
yeah,
Which is a really interesting question.
that is the question, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of a blurry line, but this is where things take a little bit of a turn
Okay.
because he also talks about this idea of alpha male behavior.
Okay.
And he claims that, women are instinctively drawn to men who display certain traits like immunity to social pressure, a willingness to take risks, and detachment from the outcome of any particular interaction.
So basically just not caring what people think.
Yeah, almost like a little bit primal, like that caveman instinct.
Yeah, so it's like he's pulling from evolutionary psychology
Mm-hmm.
to try to explain why this stuff works.
Yeah, it's like those instincts, are still in there somewhere.
And then he gets into this idea of high social value.
Right.
He's saying that women are constantly evaluating their own social standing and are wary of men who might diminish it. So they're looking for men who project high social value.
Yeah, and it makes sense. People are always trying to like climb that social ladder. Nobody wants to be dragged down.
So it's all about projecting confidence and desirability.
Projecting that value. Yeah, exactly.
So how do you project that high social value?
Well, that's a good question.
He gets very specific about fashion and style.
Yes, yes, he does. And this is where things get really interesting because he actually encourages men to embrace what he calls sexy stereotypes.
What are sexy stereotypes?
Like, think about like the rock star, the biker, the rapper,
Okay.
those kind of archetypes, those images.
So basically like don't be an average guy.
Don't be an average guy. Don't blend in. Stand out, be bold, be a sexy stereotype.
Okay. He even suggests using props,
Yes.
like to enhance your chosen image.
Yeah, like a skateboard or drumsticks.
Like if you're a musician or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That seems a little over the top to me.
It's definitely a bold strategy, but I guess the idea is to create a story before you even open your mouth.
Like a visual cue.
Yeah, you're sending a message.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's better than just like wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans.
Right, you got to stand out somehow.
So, okay, you've got the look down.
Mm-hmm.
What about actually approaching women?
Right, that's the big hurdle for a lot of guys.
So he talks about approach anxiety,
Yeah.
which is that fear of like going up and talking to
Well,
someone.
it makes your heart race, your palms get sweaty.
Yeah. And he frames it as an evolutionary leftover from our tribal past.
Interesting.
Back in the day, if you were rejected from the tribe, you were basically screwed.
Oh, yeah, you're out in cold.
But he says in a modern setting, the social consequences we fear are highly unlikely. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Someone says no.
Nobody's going to banish you. You're
Right.
not going to be out on the savannah, trying to survive.
So he's saying, like, our anxieties are basically outdated.
Yeah, they're holding us back.
Okay.
And he offers some strategies for overcoming this anxiety.
Okay.
One thing he talks about is like challenging those like disaster scenarios you have in your head.
Like getting laughed at.
Yeah, like getting laughed at or humiliated.
Publicly rejected.
Yeah, and like what are the real chances of that actually happening?
Right. Probably pretty low.
Yeah, extremely low.
So he also talks about like reframing rejection as educational.
Yeah, instead of seeing it as a personal failure, it's like an opportunity to learn and improve.
Oh, okay. So it's like a feedback mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he also emphasizes the importance of like repeated exposure.
Okay.
So basically, the more you do it, the less scary it becomes.
Like desensitizing yourself.
Exactly. It's like facing your fear.
And to deal with that nervous energy in the moment, he suggests channeling it into like positive actions,
Like what?
like improving your posture.
Oh, okay. So instead of letting that anxiety like cripple you, you use it to stand up straighter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
basically.
Interesting.
Okay, so you've overcome your approach anxiety.
Yeah.
You're looking good. You're feeling confident.
Mm-hmm.
What do you actually say to a woman?
Right. That's the $1,000,000 question.
So he has a whole bunch of opening lines that he breaks down into categories.
All right, let's hear them.
So he's got shockers,
Shockers.
which are designed to surprise and amuse.
Okay.
He's got opinion openers.
To spark conversation.
Yeah, he's got situational openers, which relate to the environment that you're in.
Okay.
And then he's got something called start in the middle openers, where you just act like you already know the woman.
Whoa. Okay, that's bold.
Yeah, and he's got examples for every single one of these categories.
Wow. So this guy has really thought this through.
Yeah, he's got a whole system.
It's a whole system.
Some of them are pretty out there, like he's got this horse girl opener that starts innocently enough, but then takes this weird turn.
I can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
He's also got this opinion opener about David Bowie.
Oh, okay. So maybe appealing to a certain type of woman?
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
And then he's got the start in the middle ones, like he says you can just walk up to someone and say, "What's up with Carson Daly?"
Oh my gosh, like you know them?
Yeah, like your old friends.
That's crazy.
I don't know how that would work, but
Bold?
it's bold, right?
Very bold.
Okay, so you've delivered your opener.
Mm-hmm.
Now what?
Right, because it's going to be a reaction.
So he emphasizes the importance of contingencies.
What are contingencies?
So contingencies are basically prepared responses for different reactions.
Oh, okay.
So you need to know what to do if she responds positively, negatively, or if she's just totally confused.
So you're ready for anything.
Yeah, you got to be ready for anything. And he also stresses that, like, the words are only a small part of it.
Right.
It's your voice tone, your body language, your overall energy that really matters.
It's all about that delivery.
Yeah.
You got to be congruent.
Okay. He also spends a lot of time on attraction material,
Okay.
which is basically techniques and routines designed to generate attraction after the initial opener.
So this is where things get a little more advanced.
Yeah, this is where things get a little bit ethically murky.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to have a clever opening line.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to be like deliberately trying to manipulate someone.
Right, you're trying to like engineer attraction.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He does encourage men to like find their own style and develop material that works for them, so it's not all just like following a script.
Okay, so there's some room for individuality.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then finally he gets into what he calls phone game,
Phone game.
which is how to get a woman's number and make sure she actually answers when you call.
Oh, okay, because that's a whole other challenge.
Yeah.
You got the number, but now you got to get her to actually pick up the phone.
Right.
Interesting.
And he's got a whole system for that too,
Of course he does.
which we'll get into next time.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
All right.
All right, so we left off talking about phone game, getting a woman's number and actually making sure she answers when you call.
Right, because that's not always a guarantee.
So how do you make sure she actually picks up there?
Well, he talks about this thing called the yes ladder.
Okay, the yes ladder. What is that?
So the idea is you get her agreeing to small requests
Okay.
and then gradually build up to bigger ones, like giving you her number.
So, like, how would that work?
Okay, so let's say you're talking to a woman and you say something like, "Do you have email?" And she's like, "Yeah." And you say, "Great, write it down for me."
Okay.
So she writes down her email, and then you say, "You know what? While you're at it, just write down your number, too. Sometimes I'm not so good with email."
Oh, so it's like you're easing her into it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a natural progression.
By the time you ask for her number, it doesn't seem like a big deal.
Right.
Okay.
And he even has a script for when she asks you for your number,
Oh,
which is interesting.
what's the script?
He says you should say something like, well, you seem like a cool girl, so I'll let you give me your number first.
Oh, so it's like flipping the script.
Yeah, you're making her feel like she's the one in control.
Interesting. Okay, so you've got her number.
You got it.
Are we
But
done?
not quite.
Not quite, okay.
Because he warns that a lot of women will give out their number freely, but then they just freeze up when the phone actually rings.
Oh, yeah, like it's a polite way to end the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a social escape hatch.
But they never actually intended to talk to you again.
Right.
Ouch. Okay, so what do you do about that?
So he talks about establishing phone rules.
Phone rules? Okay.
Yeah, basically pre-framing the interaction so she's more likely to answer and be receptive when you call.
So this is starting to sound less like dating advice and more like a psychological experiment.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
It's like he's trying to condition her to respond in a certain way.
Maybe.
Like what kind of phone rules are we talking about?
Well, he actually tells women things like, every time I call, you have to be so happy to hear from me. You have to say, oh my God, it's you. I'm so happy you called.
He actually says that.
He actually says that.
Wow.
And then he makes them practice saying it.
So it's like a script within a script.
Yeah, it's like a pre-programmed interaction.
It's all very strange.
It makes you wonder if genuine connection can really be manufactured this way.
Right. Like, is he setting the stage for a healthy relationship or is he just manipulating her into playing a role?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Okay. Let's move on from phone game for now.
Okay.
Remember all that attraction material we were talking about?
Yes, those techniques and routines to generate attraction after the opener.
Right. So he gives a bunch of examples of this stuff. And some of it is pretty wild.
Okay, like what?
So he's got this routine called the Brad Pitt routine.
The Brad Pitt routine? Okay, I gotta hear this.
So basically the woman asks for his name and he says, Brad.
Okay.
And she's like, nice to meet you, Brad. And he waits until she reaches for his hand. And then he says, Pitt. Brad Pitt.
Oh my God.
So he's like deliberately misleading her.
Yeah, he's creating this false identity just to get a reaction.
And of course she's going to be like, no, your name's not Brad Pitt.
Right.
And then he doubles down.
What?
It's like, sure, it is. What are you talking about?
Oh my God.
And only after she insists that he's wrong does he reveal his real name, and he frames it as a test to see if she's smart.
Oh my God, this is so manipulative.
It's very convoluted.
It's a power play.
Yeah.
He's creating all this mystery and intrigue and then positioning himself as superior.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And that's just one example.
Oh, wow.
He's got a ton of these routines,
Okay.
and they all follow this similar pattern, like creating these fake scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
playing with her emotions,
Yeah.
never giving a straight answer.
It's like he's trying to keep her off balance, you know?
Yeah, always seeking his approval.
Constantly trying to figure him out.
Some people might call this negging.
Yeah, like undermining her confidence to make her more receptive to his advances.
It doesn't feel very respectful.
Not really.
Okay, so moving on. He also talks about the importance of storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah, and he tells this really strange story about Tom Hanks.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So he's in a bar in Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Yeah, hanging out with some Japanese people.
Okay, this is already a weird story.
And this group of older people come up to him and insist that he's Tom Hanks.
They think he's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and he's trying to tell them they're wrong, but they won't listen.
Wow.
They even offer him $20 to sign a bill for them.
So what does he do?
He takes their money and writes Tom Hanks on the bill in big block letters.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so he uses this story to fill time in conversations,
Okay.
keep things moving if the woman's not contributing much.
It's a time killer.
Yeah, he calls it a time killer.
Okay.
And it's a funny story.
Yeah, and it kind of suggests that he's like a confident, interesting guy.
Yeah, like he's got stories to tell.
Right, he's not just some boring dude.
Okay, and then he gets into high value openers, which he describes as cocky funny.
Cocky funny? What's that?
So it's like being cocky, but delivering it with a sense of humor.
Okay, so you're confident but not arrogant. It's a fine line.
Yeah, he gives the example like, here's the deal. I've been looking around this whole place, and you're the only girl in here who's cute enough for me to even talk to.
Whoa, that's a bold.
Yeah, that's a bold approach.
I can see that working with some women, but it could also backfire.
Yeah, definitely.
It depends on her personality.
Okay, and then he talks about those start-in-the-middle openers again.
Right. Acting like you already know her.
Yeah, he gives some examples like walking up to a group and saying, hey, did you see that guy carrying a plant? He had a huge rip in his jeans.
Like you're in on some inside joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Okay, and then finally he talks about cold reads.
Cold read.
Yeah, those seemingly insightful observations about the woman.
Like, you can read her mind,
Right.
but really you're just making educated guesses.
Yeah. And he gives an example of a serial dater, cold read, where he tells the woman that he can tell she goes on a lot of dates, but has trouble finding lasting attraction.
Oh, appealing to her insecurities.
Yeah, and it's designed to make her want to prove him wrong.
Right, like, no, I'm not a serial dater.
Yeah, but it's all just a technique.
It's not real insight.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've seen a lot of interesting and sometimes unsettling ideas.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
And our deep dive isn't over yet.
Oh, there's more.
We still have more material to explore,
Okay.
including some of his more advanced techniques.
All right, I'm ready.
Stay tuned. Okay, we're back and ready to finish our deep dive into this dating seminar.
I'm ready for more.
Yeah, and let me tell you, things get even more intense in these last recordings. The instructor really starts diving into like the nuts and bolts of his system.
Okay, like the real nitty-gritty.
Yeah, and some of it's pretty out there.
Yeah.
He starts talking about framing the conversation, maintaining social momentum, escalating physically.
So, like, the technical aspects.
Yeah, it's very technical. It's almost like he's teaching a master class in social engineering.
Like, he's trying to break down human interaction into a set of rules and formulas.
Yeah, like a dating algorithm or something.
You know, framing is really about controlling how information is perceived. Like, you're setting the context for how the other person interprets what you're saying.
So you're trying to control the narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then social momentum is about keeping the conversation flowing.
Right. No awkward silences.
Exactly. And then physical escalation is about gradually increasing the level of physical intimacy.
Okay, so how does he actually do all of this?
Well, for framing, he's all about taking the lead in the conversation. Like, you never let the woman dictate the terms.
Oh, so it's about asserting dominance.
Yeah, basically establishing yourself as the leader. And for social momentum, he talks about using humor storytelling, even playful teasing to keep things interesting.
Yeah. Got to keep her entertained.
Great. And playful teasing can be fun, but you got to be careful not to offend her.
Yeah, you have to know where the line is.
Exactly.
He also talks about peacocking, like dressing in a way that stands out.
Yeah, getting attention.
Yeah, he actually encourages guys to use props to enhance their image, like hats, unusual jewelry, even carrying around a book of poetry.
Okay, so it's like those props are conversation starters.
Oh, okay.
Like, they give people an excuse to approach you.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's a way to break the ice.
Okay, and then there's this whole section on kino, which is basically just a fancy word for touch.
Touch.
Yeah, you got to be touching women early and often,
Okay.
like to establish physical comfort and connection.
Touch can be a powerful way to communicate, but you got to be respectful.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
a light touch on the arm can be nice, but you don't want to be all over her right away.
Right, got to read the signals.
Yes, exactly.
He gives a bunch of examples of how to escalate physically, starting with subtle touches and then moving to holding hands, putting your arm around her and so on.
It's all about reading her cues and responding accordingly.
Yeah, but I notice he doesn't really talk about consent explicitly.
That's a good point.
It's more about the techniques.
And about respecting her boundaries.
Right.
And consent should be the foundation of any interaction,
Definitely.
especially when it comes to physical intimacy.
Absolutely.
It's not just about getting what you want. It's about making sure everyone feels safe and respected.
Okay, and then he gets into what he calls routines,
Routines.
which are basically like pre-scripted stories or jokes designed to get a specific response from women.
So it's like he's trying to create a shortcut to connection,
Yeah.
bypassing the effort of actually getting to know someone.
Right.
But the problem with routines is that they can feel inauthentic.
Yeah, like you're not being yourself. He gives a bunch of examples, like the jealous girlfriend routine, where you tell a story about your crazy possessive ex.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to make the woman feel special by comparison.
Like, she's better than his crazy ex.
Yeah, but it's all just a story.
Right. A fabrication.
He's also got the celebrity look-alike routine, where you pretend to be mistaken for a famous person.
Oh, trying to borrow some social status.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all so superficial.
And then there's the mystery man routine, where you act all aloof and mysterious.
Playing hard to get.
Yeah, basically.
But real attraction should be based on something deeper than that.
Right. It's all very calculated and inauthentic.
It makes you wonder if he even believes any of this.
Yeah, like, is it all just a game to him?
It's a good question.
So we've spent the last hour or so dissecting this underground dating seminar.
Yeah, we've been through a lot.
We've uncovered a lot of interesting and thought-provoking and sometimes unsettling ideas.
It's a world that operates by its own rules.
Yeah.
And it's up to each individual to decide what they think about it all.
Right. Like, are there any nuggets of wisdom in here that you'd actually apply to your own life?
Or is it all just a bunch of smoke and mirrors?
It's something to think about.
Definitely.
So we've given you a glimpse behind the curtain.
Now it's your turn to decide.
Thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.